Hey everybody, welcome to The Mind Shift. It's a podcast where we explore how you can live a life without limits. I'm Sridhar, I'm the facilitator of the Mind Shift process, and my very special guest today is Cameron Bailey. You will probably know Cameron Bailey, many of you, particularly if you're in New Zealand. He'll be a household name as the top person in real estate in our country for a very long time. And just an all-around great guy. So firstly, Cameron, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I love talking to you and spending time with you.
Yeah, likewise.
We don't get to see each other in person as much these days because we do our sessions on the phone or over the video. So it's great to see you.
I moved away almost 4 years ago now. That moved from seeing each other on a regular basis to now doing it through a screen or, as you say, a phone most of the time. And this is quite special for me too, because a lot of you will recognize Cameron also because we were co-hosts on a previous podcast. So really great to connect with you again in this way and have a chat for some real gems always come out, and I'm just really pleased for to see what comes out. I said to you earlier I was just really excited. I know what you've been through this year, and we've had some conversations about it. And it's been a really extraordinary year for you in many ways, and looking forward to that kind of unraveling as today goes. But we were having a chat the other day, and I was saying, I don't know whether to be quite excited by it or if I should be a bit annoyed because one of the hardest questions I ever have to ask or answer is, what do you do? And it's because there's so many different arenas and different aspects of the work. And I think someone had asked you, what you were sharing the work with someone, and they said, well, Cameron, what does Sridhar do? And it was a fascinating answer you had. So
I had a family member of mine is going through a bit of a tough time at the moment, and I wanted him to talk to you. He's dealing with a separation. He's dealing with children and some addictions and things like that. So I wanted him to talk to you, and I always believe that until they want to talk to you themselves, it's not productive. You can't just tell someone to go and talk to you. They actually have to internally want to do it. So the only way you can make them want to do it is to actually, if they can really grasp and understand what you do. And it's a really hard question. It probably, we've known each other, for 4 years now? At least 4 years. And it probably took me a couple of years to actually come up with an idea of what you did in my head, because I think when we first started talking to each other, I came to you as a business coach. And then at that time, I was going through a separation in my life. And we ended up for the first 6 months or so just talking about the separation and about life. And then I got really clear on what I was doing with that. And then we moved into business and children and all sorts of things like that. So it's really hard to box you into a corner and tell people what you do. But when I talked to this person a few weeks ago, trying to help them to see you, I managed to come up with a little bit of an analogy of what I thought you were. And the way I described it to them is that we spend our life rolling down the highway. And I think that so many people, as we've talked about before, they're not living their best life. They're not living their true and authentic lives. And that's like going down the highway with no lanes. And I imagine in my mind, you're veering across the highway and you've got no sort of structure around. You don't really know what you're doing, and you're just drifting down it. I think what you do, and I explained to him, is that you put lanes on the highway, and you showed me what my lane was. And it's kind of really difficult to stay in your lane all the time, but as you keep doing sessions with you, you're in your lane a lot more. And as you're sort of veering off, you clip them back in. And I think and the other thing that we talked about, you and I fleshed out the other day, is that when you're in your lane and everything's going your way and everything's coming to you that you're almost like meant to be getting, and the universe is providing you, I imagined it in my mind as being like the Starship Enterprise when they go into warp factor 9, and all you see beside you is the lights going like this, and you're not worried about the rest of the world. You're not worried about what everyone else is saying and doing, because you're just in your lane. Yeah. And that's how I kind of described it to this person. And
I've now adopted that as a way to explain what I do. So that's why I said I don't want to be excited or kind of like, I didn't get that. But no, really.
I think the one thing that I've learned in life is that you need the right people around you to help you, and it's whether it's talking about relationships or business, or there's that great saying I always use, success leaves clues, and you can help someone's life be fulfilled and better and maximize it, I best.
That's a really great word. I was really chasing success for a long
Yeah.
time, and whatever ways that I was doing that, and I found, you can work hard and achieve some success, but it doesn't necessarily bring fulfillment. And I'm really appreciative that you brought up that word, because that was what was missing. And for me, it's really both. And that's what inspires me about you and the dedication you've had to this work. Because and why I get really fizzed that you're coming on this podcast to share, because you're at that very top echelon of success and have been for quite some time. And it's not the easiest thing to do sometimes to say, well, how am I going to mix fulfillment in that? Because you shared a few times, even when we previously spoke about, that wasn't always fulfilling, that what it took to maintain that. And I just look at what you're doing now to make sure your whole life is fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that you brought up is, for me, when we deal with what's going on inside, it does help in business tremendously. It does help in relationships, because at the end of the day, it's us that's the business. We show up every day. We're the ones doing it. We have the vision. We're enacting it out. So that's where all of that comes in. And I really appreciated your the way that you frame that, and also your dedication, to real fulfillment, which, would you agree, isn't easy when you're already at the top and you've got there that way?
It's really, really hard. And yes, it's fair to say that I'm at the top of real estate, but in a lot of the other things in my life, I'm been at the bottom of, with regard to the effort and time that I've put into friendships and family and my children. I mean, a lot of that would be, people would look at what the effort that I've put into that side of my life, and they'd say that's very disappointing. So, I mean, I've had to lose things to realise how much they mean to me. My father passed away this year, and we were lucky enough to get. He had a heart attack in May, and we were lucky enough to get another 4 months with him, of what I would call quality time as a family together. And what I believe he was here for in those 4 months is to bring us all together. My mum, my brother, the children, everyone together. We all thought we were doing enough, but none of us were doing enough, or we were doing the little side of what was good. But when we almost lost him, it showed us what we were losing. And I think so many times in life you don't realise what you've lost until you've lost it. Losing a father was that for me. Yeah. And that's changed, even though now he's passed away. We had some great conversations together before he went, and we've still got a lot of rituals within the family where we catch up on Sundays, either at my brother's house or my place, for to get all the kids and everyone around to have a barbecue, to have a meal with mum. All those things are so special. It doesn't matter about being number one in real estate and whatever all these other things are, because when your father's on his deathbed, there's nothing else that matters. So that was a real lesson, and it took probably losing him to realise that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, on this podcast, what I hope for is because I know that the wisdom, the work that you've put in, the effort, the insights, is that we, I just ask questions to hope that gold comes out. And the first ones there for me is we don't realise that we've lost something until we've lost it.
Yeah.
And so many times that's what happens. And it's a real tragedy, because I think if we ask the question, what if we knew that? I hope that's just a real gem for everyone. And I hope that everyone will ask this question now. Okay, let me take that in and say, well, if I know that now, what would I be doing with the people that are here? What would I be doing in life that, I don't want to wait to the end. I don't want to wait to lose it, to have to figure that out. So I appreciate you sharing that, because that's obviously really personal.
We spent 4 months, probably, the way I look at it, we spent 4 months thinking that every day could be his last day. And that's literally life, isn't it? You don't know when you can say goodbye to somebody and you're never going to see them again. So every time I said goodbye to him, I gave him a hug. And we weren't really a family of huggers. Yeah. We just weren't. And we become a family of huggers, and it was amazing, So the little things like that just really made a big difference to everybody, I think.
And I think you probably
I still remember the morning I went out for breakfast with Dad in the morning, and with his partner, and he was actually as good as I've ever seen him. And I remember telling Mum, I saw Dad this morning, and he was great. And I remember giving him a hug, and that was the last time I gave him a hug. And he left, and that night he passed away.
Yeah.
So it was a sobering experience. And the other thing that I've learned this year is how quickly life can change. And I think when you're doing the work and you are in warp factor speed or whatever you call it, life can change so quickly. I think where I am today to where I was a year ago, it feels like it's black and white, like not just mentally, but physically. I've got, finished a relationship, started a new one, seen my kids a lot more, but still not seen them enough, but I'm working on it. It just amazes me how quickly life can really change if it's meant to.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring something up that happened in our conversations, but you just share with me, hey, that's okay to go there. I remember at some point in this year, there was, that's what you're talking about, was all happening at one time, right? The relationship, your father getting ill, you even had a physical,
I broke my foot.
Broke your foot, and we had a conversation around it, and I think this gives us a really great opportunity, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it, that, I said to you, well, hey, Cameron, in my experience, these things aren't necessarily, they're not bad things, it's not black and white that they're bad. It's like, what if it's like a gift to you, like a wake-up call to show you where you're maybe not being authentic to yourself and how you're living your life. And because it's really hard when you're in the middle of all of that, like it's happening. And I remember speaking with you, and it was all on. And, but you had the courage, because I suggested that to you, and you really got it. Like you were open to that and said, okay, well, because it's, I've said to you, and I've said before, in my experience of all the time I've done this work, it appears to me that this world we live in, the universe that we live in, everything that's occurring is just for one purpose. It's here to make sure that we live an authentic life. And if we're going with it, it's like the warp 9, like because we're going with the flow of our true authenticity. And if we're not doing that, we get, people call them, bad things that happen, but they're not bad. They're like, they're guides to say, they're trying to help us get in our lane and our true lane. And, for me, if we use that opportunity, then we'll just start to flow and get our lives together. But if we don't, it gets louder and louder. And when I hear people say, why do bad things always happen? My response is because you're not listening to what it's trying to give you. And it was just such a great opportunity, because you did, I don't think it was easy, but you said, okay, well, let me look at this. And you did. And the changes that have come about, like you're talking about now, is, I just said I was so excited for you to be here because of what you've done this year.
Yeah, it's really true. At the start of the year, I felt like I was getting beaten up and just kicked in the guts all the time. And, with finishing a relationship, I was excited about, being by myself, and I wanted to get my fitness back together again, and, travel and all these sort of things. And as soon as I moved towards that, I broke my foot. So then my fitness couldn't get back together. And then I, had some issues with some friends and lost contact with them, and then there was Dad, and I just felt like nothing was going to go right for me this year. But I was looking at it from the wrong way, and I was also thinking about, poor me, how can this happen, And then as soon as I changed my mindset, the whole thing shifted. And in the last couple of months, I've been in such a wonderful space. It just, we described it the other week when we were talking, as it's just easy. Yeah. I'm not stressed, I'm not feeling under pressure. A lot more stuff's coming my way that I'm not even expecting. It's really funny. It's amazing how quickly it can change.
Yeah, and I think it's the analogy I'm getting is that when you're hitting warp drive, when you're plugging in your coordinates, you want to make sure that everything that's important to you is part of those coordinates.
Yeah.
Right? We're not just heading off in one business success direction,
Yeah.
but we're heading off. Our coordinates are going to include the relationships, that we have. I know there was an important friendship in your life that that started to have some strain because of, I guess the path you were on. You woke up to that, realized how much that was important to you, put effort into that. So it was like the analogy I'm getting is, if we use the starting conversation as, you've now got everything that's important to you in your coordinates, your family, your relationships, your family of origin. And, it's really great what will you tell me? How's it different compared to sort of the, I guess what you might call hyper-focus on an outcome, which you've done extraordinary things in. What's it like?
I think the word that comes to me is it's calm. I'm thinking of this analogy that, you learn your best skills on choppy waters, and there's some quote that it's the choppy waters that make the best sailor or something like that. And you think that you've got to go through all this hard stuff to get out the other end and to be successful, and I don't think that's true. I think that if you can find balance and fulfillment, you'll get everything that you want, and it's actually not that hard. And you don't have the stress and all the worry, and I don't know, it's just calm. That's how to describe it.
It's almost wordless, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're just connected with who you are, but we can see it. And this is really, Cameron, the reason when we started this podcast, it was in the hopes that gems like that would come out, because how long have we all learned, and how many times have you heard in your career, to get where you are, you have to work harder, you have to sacrifice more, you have to force and struggle, and it just really creates its own resistance, doesn't it? So this is absolute gold to hear you say, to come from that and to have got there that way, and now to just say, and you can see it. I've been seeing it all year, the peace that's come over you, the calm that's coming over you, and I mean, business isn't suffering, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I think you're the most known in the industry, and I think you were still up on that stage.
Yeah. Well, actually, the business comes easier. I've actually worked less this year than previous years and sold just as many houses. And you attract the right people around you that you need to help you get through these things.
Yes.
So that's the real magic. It's quite funny how it all happens. It's exactly what you don't think that you need to do that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. What you don't think you need to be doing is what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Because are we listening to our true self? Are we really pursuing the life that we're here to live? Or are we caught up in some sort of external push or pull, which is hard? Like well, whether I say it's hard, it takes something to get to that space, because you're worried about, maybe we worry about what other people think. What are they going to think if I do what I really want to do? But in the end of the day, would you agree, it just doesn't matter?
Yeah, it really doesn't. And I think by losing Dad, it actually showed me that nothing really matters. And as much as you can, in theory, think about that before it actually happens, it's not until you lose something, whether that be a partner or, a parent or something like that, that it really digs into you, and you realise that nothing else is important. I mean, I thought I was too busy for everything, and as soon as Dad had his heart attack, I was there, and nothing else really mattered. My brother cancelled work for the week that he died, and I did it as well, and we were just together as a family. So, I mean, and the world didn't stop.
No.
No.
In fact, it started working for you.
Yeah.
You start getting more support and more help to do all those things.
And I'm far from I'm not sitting here saying that I've got everything right in my life, because I sure haven't. I want to spend a lot more time with my daughters. I'm still, working on that, and relationships with friends, and they're not right, but I think maybe I'm just starting to head in the right direction. And I've got to keep constantly working on it, because you do, don't you? You can't just ease off. You've just got to keep constantly working on it, and that's what you do. Is you sort of, every week when I catch up with you, sort of clip me back into line, clip me back into line. And,
nicely, hopefully.
Yeah, nicely. And that's the vision that I've got. I'm still in the lane and I'm just kind of veering off because I think this comes up and then I talk to you and boom, I'm sort of back in the line.
Well, we've spoken a lot about this, Cameron, that, why do we end up in these places of so much stress? And it's because we have stories, right? Our stories that we believe, we've talked about, having something happen in life and all of a sudden we decide we're not good enough, or we decide we're a failure, or somebody's better than us. And so we just get this incessant drive to like prove ourselves. And, that's what sets us on the path to not be that genuine self. But that builds momentum, right? Year after year, decade after decade of doing that, it builds like this whole identity with its habit patterns. And you're saying something really important here, because to shift that, because none of that ever ends up being, I've done this long enough to know, none of that ever ends up being fulfilling, or, people never look back at that and go, oh, I'm so glad I did it that way. It's like, oh, what did I not do that I came here to do? What part of my life, like you said, you don't know what you've lost until you've lost it. What am I losing here? And it's when, they don't stop just because we make a decision to change, so connecting with yourself and finding out what's really important to you and staying that course is something that we need to maintain the focus on that, because the past is always there. It's like if you don't be aware of it, catches up and tries to get us back in those old habits again, because I talk about it like a speeding train. I can't remember who it was I was speaking to the other day, but we were talking about this, like the past story becomes like a speeding train. And then the person I was talking to said, yeah, that the analogy I'm getting is you keep adding box cars to it and the train gets longer and longer. So it's harder to stop. But the key thing is the focus, and that's what I've watched from you this year is you didn't just make one decision, because some people do that. Somebody important to them dies, and for a minute they change. Like it's, I'm gonna go there and be there, and then they just get sucked right back into the train. But you haven't done that. Like you utilize that opportunity to really get in touch with what's important to you. And this is really important, I think, Cameron, because you've been working towards that for some time, right? And to be fair, you've had pieces of it along the way. But this was a real transformation this year where you
probably no consistency is what I've had. I've had moments of it and then drift back, and then moments of it then drift back. You've known me for 4 or 5 years. What do you think is my story, my big story?
Ooh,
it's a big question for you.
Well, from our conversations, I think your big story had to do with a comparison that you had a long time ago. You were in an instance, and you were in this environment, and the people that you were with had what you perceived you and your family didn't have. Do you remember where I'm going? And in that moment, because it's people just go, how does a single moment, do this stuff? But because we're in such a heightened emotional state, it locks in, okay, I'm less than, and that's painful. We lock in the unconscious mind, I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm better than those people, or I'm as good as them. And I'd be interested in your feedback on that. But we've had a lot of conversations, but I'd say that would probably be, the one that leads you. And I will say this too, because this is quite important. It's actually created the drive for you to succeed to the level that you have, right? It's not when people say, oh God, that story like really ruined my life. And I said, well, it's ruined it in a way because it's been stressful for all, for anyone on that path. It's a stressful pathway. You don't ever get to rest. You don't ever get to just enjoy what you're doing. It's not a focus on, I'm doing well and pat yourself on the back. It's no, what am I missing? Because it's like a treadmill that you can never get off of, because there's always the next person you have to beat, or the next thing you have to do. Or in your case, you can tell us about this, but and I know we've talked about it. I have to keep it. Now I'm number one. I have to keep number one. I have to keep number one. And so it becomes pressureful, but it's not fulfilling. And that's that's where it becomes important to connect inside. But what are your thoughts? I mean, does that feel right?
Yeah, it's something like, it's probably not good enough, isn't it? Is it not good enough, or Or is it not enough?
So when it comes to these kinds of stories, it's contextual. So what I mean by that is the circumstance that we were in at the time of creating it. And what ends up happening here is again, I'll repeat it because it's kind of hard to believe that these entire stories, these entire identities happen in a single moment of time. But that moment seems so traumatic that we lock in this, it's so painful that we lock in this whole identity of the story, who we need to become to make sure nobody ever finds out I'm not good enough, or nobody ever finds out I'm stupid, or whatever our story is. No, I don't want anyone to ever find that out. So we create these strategies. I talk about it a lot because we idolize successful people in the world. But I've worked with enough, at the very top levels to go, there's a lot going on behind that, and the more that's there, the more pressure it is. So a lot of these people aren't having fun lives. It looks fun on the outside, but it isn't actually fun. And those stories get created or locked in a single moment of time. So it'll be contextual. So if I'm not looking at the right moment, you'll remember the moment that I'm referring to. If that may not have been the first one, right? That might be, once we have that first moment, then the other ones compound the same story. So we just go through life. It's like a filter we create. Once we have the story, we start seeing life through that filter. And then once something happens, we'll go, see, I'm not good enough. Oh, see, I knew I'm not good enough. And we don't consciously know this is going on, but unconsciously it's there. So in your case, it would be to look at the first story. So I believe we're in the right area, but in terms of the exact story, it's contextual. So for example, was someone else involved? If someone else was involved, so in my case, I compared myself with my brother, who was like a superstar academic, got great grades, and my family was all about education and grades and things. And my older brother like really, smashed that whole thing. He was top student, year after year after year. And so when it came from me, my story was I'm inferior to him. He's superior to me. And then once I did that, I start projecting onto you're superior to me, they're superior to me, everyone is. And so that would be in the understanding of your story, it's what's the context that was going on. So did you compare yourself to someone? Then likely it's going to be a story similar to what my mind created. If it was on your own, for example, let's just say that you're on your own and there's something that you're trying to do, and you're not really comparing, but you just can't do it no matter how hard you try. And maybe somebody comes along and makes a crack about it, and then you go, oh, you know what? I better stop doing this. I'm not good enough. It can even be things like I'm a failure. That's another one that people have. I'm a failure, or less than is a big one. It becomes an identity. Like it literally, you're saying it like it actually gets into the physiology. This is why it's hard sometimes for people when we start, unpacking this, as they say, they'll just go, well, no, this is just who I am. And I go, I know it feels that way because this is all you've known yourself to be. But if you remember being that child when you were like 2, 3, you've had children, they didn't have that when they were like 2 or 3 years old. No, they don't run around thinking I'm not good enough. Something happens and then it shifts over into whatever story that we've got.
So that was my story 4 or 5 years ago when you first met me. Is that story still the story today? Then when you talk to me now or in our sessions every week, are you thinking I'm still in that story?
Definitely not as much. I mean, it's just for everybody to see today. This is just obvious, like who you are today. Because as you said, I haven't seen you for a while. You look different. You have a peace about you. You have a calmness about you. Kaushik's here with us. Kaushik's known you for a while. He's nodding his head. It's an obvious thing. So I'm glad you're bringing it up. It's a matter of degree. You said something earlier, like this is a process of connecting with your authentic self. And I've seen, when I asked you if you'd be a guest on the podcast here, it was in part because I just seen I've seen it even through a screen, and on the phone I can hear it. And so the answer to that is I'm way more speaking to the authentic Cameron now than when we started. So say in the beginning, that not good enough story was pretty much all encompassing. And it's not just you, it's everyone. I mean, if I said to you that you wouldn't have even known you had that story, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so then you started to get to it, and that's who I was speaking with in the beginning. But this is why I'm just really acknowledging and honoring the work that you've consistently done, because it's not easy. And this year I would say I'm mostly like talking, will they're not good enough get in? Mine does.
Yeah.
Like, it'll get in, I'll catch it and I'll go, oh, well, I'm coming from the identity now. And then make sure that I get, I'll use your analogy, get back in the lane of the authentic self and use the gift for that. But yeah, no, you're far more authentic now.
I ask you because I think in life it's sometimes you don't sit down to think about how far you've come. We always spend all our time thinking about how far we've got to go, and we never get there because we keep changing the bar,
Yes.
I mean, I remember when I went to earn the first $1 million, and then it just the bar keeps going up, and you never get
5
there.
million, 10 million,
and and I love coming to these sessions with you and the podcast because I think we look at them a different way, because you actually, I mean, I was sitting here with you and I was thinking, how far actually have I come in 4 years? How do you see me as a different person? And we don't get to talk about that when we talk about our sessions, do we? We don't talk about it that way.
The next thing.
Yeah, we get on to the next thing. And it's good to, I think, reflect back and think, how have I changed? Or, how have you changed? Like that's the other thing, is you're changing within the time as well. We've both changed as people, haven't we?
Well, it's an interesting thing. This year's been a really tremendous year for me as well. So it's been a real year of growth, and thanks for the opportunity, because I want to hear more from your story, but you're giving me an opportunity to share, and I think it's important, because I think people look at me and people in the kind of work that I do feel like we have to, I can't ever have anything going on, but that's a lie. Like that's we're human beings that have things going on. It's just, how do we deal with them? And I've had a really challenging few years, right? This has been a real turnaround year for me as well. And one thing that for me is like, I haven't been sick for like 15 years. Like, I just, not even a cold, nothing. And this year I got massively sick just a few months ago, really, really sick. But that was my turnaround. Like, after a few years of dealing with some things that had come up, some things that occurred in my life. And I knew it was something really deep, that the kind of thing I haven't dealt with for 30 odd years, just because I do my work daily, and something of this nature hadn't come up, and it took me some time to get through it. And that illness was the culmination, but it was also the turning point for me, that I went to work and I went, okay, because I'm all, me, I'm about the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on in my mind that's contributing? So I know people just think, oh, you get sick, but I didn't get sick for a long time, and I know why. Whatever people think, I know for myself why that was, because I make sure and keep a mindset of wellness and healthiness. And
so who puts you back in your lane? If you do that for all the hundreds of people you talk to, who does it for you? Is there someone that does it for you, or do you do it for yourself, or does Susanna do it? How does that work?
Yeah, so I've had, some really, really amazing teachers in my life, and like a number of like really amazing people. And so these are the sort of the techniques. They've either, I either utilize the things I learned there, or they've contributed to my overall mindset of the things that I put out. So the first place I go is just go to my tools and go, well, okay, well, what tool? Like when I was sick, I asked the question, what's my body expressing that my mind is repressing? So for me, what we repress in the mind shows up in life, either through a relationship or through my body. And in this case, my body was showing me something. And so when I was like, in the midst of like, it was a crazy time, because I was completely sick, but at the same time, I'm having these awakenings, like I'm doing the work, because I can't sleep, I'm too sick, and I'm doing the work, and I'm having these like experiences of opening, and I just got that how my mind shifted, and I lost my gratitude for life. I started to look at life in a negative way, because, to be fair, I think there's a lot of people out there that the past few years have been quite tough in a lot of ways. And some things happened for me that were really challenging. And that took me some time to get through. And in the end, I just realized how, on the one hand, every day I'm working with people saying, connect with who you are. The universe is an amazing place. It's magical, and it is. But behind the scenes, I'm going, well, so-and-so is not working out, why isn't so-and-so happening? I'm complaining. And that's what I got to see, is that was manifesting, because I got to a place where it was very difficult to breathe. And that's what my body was expressing, was the difficulty in breathing. And I thought, okay, well, where in my life do I feel I can't breathe? And that's where I felt I was I was suffocating in this particular area. And then that's when I woke up to how ungrateful I'd become. And once I turned that around, it's not only a turnaround, it's like this last few years has been a preparation for a whole different level of my life. And that's what I see. And that's what's going on with you. The moment that you decided, and I believe it's before we met. People think it happens when we meet and we start talking about it, but you were having it. That's what brought you in the first place. You thought you came for just business success, but deep inside, you wouldn't have come to the work with me if you didn't also want your genuine life, because that's the approach to business success for me, is become your authentic self. You'll get all the success you want and everywhere else too. And it's that sometimes when you're dedicated to that authentic self, a whole bunch of things happen. And because we need to grow and be ready for it. And I now look and say, there's some really cool stuff's happening with what we're doing here with the mind shift. Like some cool things are happening, like amazing things are happening. And it's that flow you're talking about where things are just flowing in. But I wasn't ready for that 3 years ago. And now it's, you're kind of really moving me here, because it gives me a chance to say like what we're up to now. And I've always had a mission for everyone to live their greatest life and to live a life without limits. And that whole thing catapulted me to a different level. And that's what I see happening with you. So those challenges that went on, they've catapulted. I mean, I'm just sitting here looking at you going, when have I seen Cameron? Like, I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but there's just an aura of a calmness with you, a relaxation. And I hear it, not a relaxation, like
I'm
a
actually
peace.
feeling that with you too, because like I'm just looking back on our comments, because we talk about your business and stuff a bit as well and what's going on in the background, you know. So I get to hear a little bit that other people don't hear as well. And when you were talking, and what I was feeling is that almost like you were trying too hard, you know, and you were just trying, and it wasn't working because you're getting feedback coming back the other way. And as soon as you sort of realised that you didn't have to try and you just had to be grateful, was the word that I got from that as well. Then it all started to happen.
Yeah. It wasn't the time. I was trying to force something, right? And instead of going, okay, just relax on it.
That's it. Yeah, trying to force something.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of my life doing that as well. I've spent a lot of my life trying to force to be wealthy or trying to force to be successful. And when you're trying to force it, boof, blows back up in your face, doesn't it? You know,
creates its own resistance.
Yeah.
But when you're lost in it, you know, I've done this work for 30 odd years now, and I got lost in it, and you know, I didn't see it to the extent I really needed to see I was in there until the big wake up moment, and then it all just went. It's like, what am I doing here? You know, what's and some of it was unconscious. Like I probably realized at some degree, but deep inside I realized the lack of gratitude. Because on the one hand, I'm saying, oh, this wonderful universe, and it always gives you everything, and it's happening for you. And then I counted, you know, started to count the number of times under my breath I was going, yeah, but why isn't that working out? And instead of just when I got unwell, I opened up to this is all part of the perfection. And I started to look at it and just got overwhelmed with gratitude.
And it took you to get so sick that you couldn't work, basically, didn't it? You know, to actually realise what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't, you know, to be honest, Cameron, never since the beginning when I was in drug addiction and came out of that, I hadn't had anything that on that level to deal with. Like the things in the past, I could always just deal with them, you know, in a day or a week and keep moving forward. But this one was like it was something different. It brought up this, you know, much like you, it brought up this like 5-year-old stuff that I just assumed was dealt with, but wasn't. And I could just feel it at that level. But now the sense of freedom that I've got having come through that is really extraordinary. And I guess this is just really cool because I'm getting that parallel with you.
Do you know what I remember just thinking here? I also remember when I was earlier in the year when I had some stuff going on and I wasn't in a bad place, but I felt like I was in a, you know, like having all this stuff happen to me. You said to me in a reasonably firm way, I remember you said to me that if you don't stop and listen, something even worse is going to happen to you. Do you remember that? And that was when I'd broken my foot, and you know, like I do silly things, like when I broke my foot, I left the hospital because I was waiting too long and all these sort of things, you know. And you said to me, if you keep acting the way that you're doing, you're going to get, I mean, you're implying like a bigger sickness, you know, like a cancer or something. That's how I took it. If I don't reshuffle and look at how I'm doing everything, I mean, the universe is going to keep punching me, and it's going to be a harder punch, so I wake up to it.
Yeah, so my experiences, which is all I can share, and it's been a fair few people now that I've worked with and been a part of the journey, like you and I, and my own that I've seen for a long time. It goes back to that conversation that we're here to be authentic. This is what I've discovered. Like, for those that may not know or new to the podcast or the work or that I do here, my life's always been about, since those addiction years, and I turned around and I had that epiphany that there was an infinite potential for life. It's been about, how do we get that? Like who, and in order to do that, we have to know, like, who are we? Like, what is this whole life about anyway? And that's been my search. Like, who are we? What's the reality of this life? And, realizing that I was going through it asleep and not really realizing it. And in the process of that, a discovery that I've had through experience is that it appears to me that we're here to do one thing. We are in this life to do one thing, and that's to live it authentically, to live who we are, which I can put out in one sentence. It's quite a big thing, because living authentically means connecting to who we are, figuring out who it is that we are, what do we truly want, what's our true pathway. You were talking about your family and hugs, and I didn't want to interrupt, but a quick thought came when you said you don't have a family that hugs, but my thought was you probably do. You probably always have had a family that hugs, but people aren't actually doing it. A lot of us we're not saying the things that we want to say. We're not saying I love you when we want to say that. We're not calling somebody up and saying, hey, you're important to me. And, we're just taking it for granted that there's always a tomorrow. I'll say it one day, or maybe I don't need to say it, but we do. And so what I've discovered is that everything that's happening in life, I mean, this, I don't know, we're going to have a long conversation if we open this up, but I've discovered that we live in an absolutely mind-blowingly amazing universe. And everything that it's doing, if we look at each individual, everything that it's doing is to help us in that one endeavor, to live authentically. And that authenticity can be great success that we create. It can be loving relationships that we have. It can just be our sense of peace that you're talking about today. And if we're not on that path, my experience, again, it's all I can share, is that we that gets reflected to us. Not because I'm getting some harsh lesson from a mean universe, because it's the great director of the lanes and the highways, right? I'm just like a little not messenger, but like facilitator who understands that and helps people. The universe is the great organizer of everything. And if we're not on that authentic path, it gives us a little reminder. And my experience is gentle in the beginning, but we may not see it. And then it gets a little bit more louder, and then we may not see it, and then it gets a bit louder. And the reason I said that to you is about 5 major things were happening in your life at the same time. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence, right? And because I've also known you for some years, I could see the progression of, okay, this happened, and then that happened, and then once that occurred, the reason I said that to you is because I could see the writing on the wall. And because it's what you said, it's not that you haven't been dedicated, but as you said, you were kind of to and fro with the authenticity. You were doing it, but obviously not to the level that you were ready for. And so then, whoosh, you get these major things. And I just suggested to you, I think I said, if I were you, I would listen. I would really take heed this time, because otherwise, what more do you want to happen or need to happen in your life to get you on the path? But the universe is so loving. God, universe, whatever language people want to use, is so loving. It will not give up on us. It will, and this is how, when we turn around, like these situations with you, when I look at your journey, Cameron, you've been in these conversations for quite some time, but now you got it. Then you did get it. You woke up, and I check in with you every week. How are you going in that friendship? Yeah, I'm putting effort into it. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm going with my kids. Yeah, I'm traveling over there. Yeah, I'm taking my time off. And I'm really pleased you say, I'm still loving my work, and I still love doing that too, and that's a very big part of your life. So, and now we're hearing you say, I've got ease and flow. How long ago was this? was months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny because you actually end up loving your work more because you're enjoying it. Whereas when I've been in bad spaces, I blame work. So then you end up going to work, hating it, blaming it, not enjoying it, and then it just, what sort of a life is that?
Yeah.
You know?
But then you feel you have to, you know, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to do what you're doing, like a tremendous amount of courage because of the momentum that you've built in that arena. So it's what you're saying here isn't it, you know, it's not the easiest thing. Would you agree? It takes something. It's the only way I can think to say it. It takes a commitment and it takes consistency.
Well, it also goes against, you know, I'm 46, 47. It goes against 46 or 7 years of doing that. So it's really hard to turn the ship around, isn't it? And change course a little bit, you know? And that's the whole thing. I mean, I like what you said before about the universe always provides us the most beautiful experience for you, you know? It's really true.
And and what I'm hearing from you, which is I hope everyone hears, is if you do listen, if you can listen means connect, you know, take that opportunity to connect with what's true and start leading your life from that point of view, like touching base with your family and loving your work more and spending time with your kids and, you know, your partner and all those things that you, and your friend and all that, your friends. Once you start doing that, then it all just becomes, you got the whole force of the universe behind you. And of course it's going to be easy because it's limitless. And once you start getting those limitless supports, and as long as you stay on that path, it gets better and better. One of my teachers says, you know, just when you think life can't get any better, it has to. I've always just loved that. Tuck that one away in my heart.
Yeah.
Just when you think life can't get any better, it has to. I also have seen just when you think it can't get any worse, it also has to. So the idea is I love gratitude. As you know, you hear me say that word a lot. And just to look at, you said something really important earlier, which is look at what you do have. And, you know, do get authentic and then everything changes.
I think the thing I'm just thinking is that I've had to sacrifice the thing that I was trying to protect the most. So I was trying to protect my work the most because it gave me the most, what I thought was the most happiness or whatever. And as soon as I let that go a little bit and focused on everything else, then everything got better. If I was just focusing on work, maybe work got better, but I didn't enjoy it anymore, but the rest of it got less. Yeah. So I had to sacrifice the thing that I was protecting the most to actually move forward. Yeah. And that's what I think most people don't do because they're too scared.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah. And for me, it was super scary because I was at the top of the tree and I still find it scary. And that's why it's so easy to go back into, you know, those patterns again because it's so comfortable for me. So when I was unhappy in my relationship, I had a wonderful year in real estate. You know, that was the sign. You know, when I was unhappy, I was working more and I was whatever I was doing at work more. But I had to do the exact opposite to get out of it. But you can't see that. And that's probably what you've done for me. You've highlighted that I've got to sacrifice what I think is the most important thing in my life to get everything.
Well, really, Cameron, if you look at it, what you're really sacrificing is your story. Like it's not even an outside thing that you're sacrificing. Because you're not actually sacrificing your work. I mean, you're still at the top and you're sacrificing the way that you worked, right? You're sacrificing the way that you viewed it and maybe the reasons that you were doing it. The word that I would use rather than sacrifice is giving up, like giving it up, giving up the story, giving up that needs to run your life. That's from my perspective, that's what I've seen you. You've given up the way that you viewed what you needed to do. And, you know, and that opens up the door for everything else, including the work. Like I've noticed in my own life, when I do get to that clarity and that connection, work doesn't go backwards. Like we're not sacrificing at the moment. Probably if there's a sacrifice, it's a bit of time at the moment because things are burgeoning. And I've got a lot to do. But I'm loving it. Like I did sit down one time. I'm going to be honest about this because you have to be careful. Like I sat down. There's a pile on it. Right, we're officially launching this whole mind shift thing in April. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And I sat down with this to-do list that's just, you know, I looked at it and my first reaction was, oh, goodness. And then I started to do it, and then I just stopped myself and said, well, just hold on a minute, right? Luckily I have this, when you start listening to your internal messaging, it'll let you know when it's time. And I just got this, just hold on a minute, Sridhar. You're sitting here stressed out. Look at what you get to do right now. One of the things you're internally stressed about is you've got to get back to some people that have contacted you because they want to enter this conversation and allow you to do the work you absolutely love, and you're feeling stressed about. I'm like, what an amazing thing I get to do to contact. And then so I just filled that exercise, that action with gratitude, and that's what I'm doing now. Is everything I'm doing, I'm reminding myself and remembering. Why are you grateful to get to do this, right? And because we don't have to do any of these things, we get to do them, and it's how we live.
So funny you should bring that up, because that's been kind of like my theme or my mantra for the year, is that I get to do it rather than I have to do this. I get to do it, and that was all the things with Dad and with work, and I'm trying to look at it in a different way. And then as soon as you start to do that with a grateful mindset, the whole thing changes.
Yeah.
You get to do it. I get to go to work. I get to see my kids. I get to do all this sort of stuff. It's such a powerful way to look at everything.
Yeah. And then if you ask yourself, I did ask myself, how many people, that do what I do, for example, how many people that do what you do would give anything to be in the position right now to do this, to be doing this work? And that just puts it in perspective of, this is what I've always asked for. This is what I've wanted. It's now coming to fruition. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to make use of, or not make use, but just love every minute of it, because in your case, you've been working on this for a long time and given up a lot for it. And so, going back to that, it's what we have to give up. And to me, really at the end of the day, it's giving up the story. That's all there is to give up, because once we connect with the true self, we get to hear things like what you're saying today. Look, your life has just become so much more full in 6 months.
So you're sacrificing the story, not sacrificing the work.
Well, I mean, what do you think now? I'd love to hear your opinion. Like, are you sacrificing work?
Yeah, no, I didn't work. I worked differently because I sacrificed the story. I of all the has tos, or, they weren't true. So I did sacrifice that story to work differently. It let me work differently. So I didn't put any less effort or energy into it. I just did it a different way to get a different result.
Yeah.
So it's sacrificing the story.
Yeah, and then when you do that, you start living by your true priorities, and that's what I'm hearing from you every week, because we touch base on how you're progressing, right? You've done so much work on your story. A lot of our conversations now are, how are you progressing? How are you progressing in the ways that you want to be progressing? And every week I'm hearing, you don't maybe say I'm progressing this way. You just share what's happening, and I hear the progression in it. You're
well, it's funny, because the last few times we've talked in my sessions, we haven't even talked so much about me, because I've actually been in a really good space. I haven't felt like I've wanted to, talk to you about a lot. It's almost like I'm a little bit empty.
Yeah.
Because I haven't got stuff to talk about. And we've just talked about general life, and we've talked about examples, and we've talked about, even when we were talking about the Star Trek thing, and that we were talking about, that person I referred you on to, and their background. And I think you get a lot from talking about other people as well. So you've talked about situations which I've found exciting and interesting, and taking some stuff from it. So that's probably what we've been talking about in the last few months, rather than actually, you've got to do this, and this is what you've got to change. Yeah. So that's changed a little bit as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, man, you just mentioned that word empty. That is just so powerful, because the empty you're talking about isn't the empty most people are talking about. Like, the empty you've got is an emptiness where all possibility can exist. It's like, it's an empty because you're done running from, in that story, you've just got space. And in that emptiness, I'm watching you fill it up. You may not even know, like, we had this conversation the other day, because I'm picking that up in our conversations. You're just like, I'm loving it, Cameron. Like, Ashley, how you doing? There's just a bit of silence there for a bit. I'm doing great. And you just kind of tell me what your week's been like. And, it's quite multifaceted. And, the last conversation we had, I said, well, now's the space that if you'd like to, because one option is just enjoy that space of, remember we just had this conversation, like, enjoy the space of it and just enjoy peace. You probably haven't, experienced it since you were about 5 or 6 or 7, that feeling. All of us are in the same boat. Or the other thing is now you have an infinitely open space. And I really mean it directly. I don't have time on this podcast to back that up right now, but an infinitely open space to fill it up with what now fulfills you. So the question I asked you is, how'd you like to now go, what does your life now look like? Get to, now that you're connected and you're in that empty space, what would you love to fill it with? There's no have to anymore. What would you just absolutely love to do with your life? And it's I love
that.
Conversation.
I actually love that, because in my mind, I'm thinking that everyone's got the same amount of hours in the day and in the week and in the year. And I do feel like that at the moment. I feel like I'm so empty in my life, whether that's the right word or not, that I have more space for other things that I really want to do. But I'm still looking back in it and I'm thinking that I'm still working and I'm still spending time with my kids and I'm still doing everything that I want to do and I've still got empty space. Yeah. So how does that, and before I was doing less but felt I had no space. So
because you're so much bigger than you think you are. I mean, I'm just so grateful for you for the opportunity to air this kind of stuff.
We limit ourselves, don't we?
Big time. If we stop and look at just how much, we are literally limitless beings. Like we don't have any limitations. Yet once we identify with that story, the way that I say it is like we're like an infinite space that limits ourselves into the size of a grain of sand, because we're now limited to the story. I've got to come out of this. Everything I do has to prove myself. I've got to think of so-and-so when I'm doing it. So we've never lost our true connection with, we're an empty space. Like I often say, if you actually just look out, I'm a lover of, observer of the night sky and stars. I always love all of that and quantum physics. And I just really love all of this whole, how big is the universe? And the universe is infinite, right? And if you think about the universe that we live in, the universe is where we live. We have a planet, then a solar system, then a galaxy, and then 200 trillion some odd galaxies in what's called a known universe. And that universe is infinite, which means it doesn't have an end. And if you look really carefully at space, we talked about Star Trek, it's most of it's just empty. It's just nothingness. It's just empty space. And in that space, if you look at it, it's just all possibilities are coming in that space. And we have that as our nature. We are by nature all possibilities. And we can enact those in this life. And what do? We go, oh, but I'm not good enough, right? And it's insane when you start peeling it back like we are right now, because it couldn't be anything farther from the truth. But we believe it and make it so strong, it becomes an identity that we then think that we are. And if you think infinite empty space to I'm not good enough, how limiting is that? Yeah. And that's what it's why we're doing all of this, Cameron. It's why this podcast is here. It's why I do the work I do, because that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. And if we could wake up to who we are, then, just bit by bit, like what we're hearing from you today. I'm watching you and it might just sound people, oh yeah, he's spending some time with his family and spending some time with friends. For you, how important is that? How fulfilling is it?
It's better than anything, really.
And you've got the thing right now, what you're sharing, and it's visible. You are getting the thing that we all actually truly want, and it's peace of mind. What we all want at the end of the day is we just want peace of mind. We want freedom. We want to just be comfortable in who we are. We want to be able to sit here and just be fulfilled and be happy and be peaceful. Yet instead we're on this rat race of constantly having to prove, get the next like, get the next, admiration, get the next amount of money that we think, that means something. And all that stuff is great, don't get me wrong. 'Cause I love life and all the things that it can bring. But when we have to have them, that's when we lose our peace and we get down the track. So yeah, how cool that this is airing on a live podcast, but this is the work that you've been doing, puts you into that limitless space that you can now say, what do I want? What would I love to fill it with? So now I'll put it on you. What comes, does anything
Well, of all the times that we've talked about these sort of things before, but I haven't really felt it. And I think I can feel it at the moment because I actually am a little bit, for the word empty, I feel that there's more capacity there. It's a capacity thing, I think. We think we can't do anymore. It's a little bit like, I was thinking when you were talking to me about, I talk to agents that are starting their real estate careers and their capacity is 1 or 2 auctions a month, and I can do 10 or 11 auctions a week. So it's all, we tell ourselves we can't do it, but when you get there, you sort of realize that it is limitless.
Yeah,
you can have everything that you possibly want.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when you do the work, when you do that work that takes something, which you've done. Because I'm just thinking, how many times along the way, we'd love to hear this from you. How many times along the way have you just felt like, I just want to give up on this path? Like, I don't want to keep looking. I don't want to keep dealing with what there is. Have you had those times?
Lots, all the time. I mean, it's easy to go back, isn't it? You have something happen and you think, oh, bugger, and then it's easy to give up, isn't it? Like it's probably the easiest thing in the world to give up. And I think most people give up before they get there. So, I mean, I think that's the battle, isn't it, really? Once you get to that position, it's like trying to stay there.
Yeah. But also what we're getting demonstrated here today is this is the reward of staying with it. Because it was hard, that time when all that stuff was going on, and even times before that, you talked about the ending of a relationship. That's never easy. And there were some really difficult times during that, I know, for you. And we were having some conversations about that. And, it can just seem easy to go, this is all too hard. Life is too hard. And, certainly the path to authenticity can feel hard. To me, it's the easiest path there is. It's much harder to stay in suffering and pain and the same old than it is to actually change. But it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. And it feels like, it can be really, really tough. But this is the reward of staying with it. You get to that you start really connecting with, I'm all possibility here. Like that's not just a poster on a wall. It's what I love about again, I keep saying this is why we do the podcast, but it's to illustrate that these things are really true. I saw posters on the wall, anything is possible. I was talking to another really highly successful, he's an athlete at the top level. And we were having this conversation. I said to him, like, what would you do? What would you say? Because I knew what he was going to do. I said, what would you do if I said to you anything is possible? And he went, like this, right? Yeah, I know, I've heard it, right? And then we spent the hour talking about just how. And in the end, he was like, it actually really is possible. But I don't know about you. I see these posters on the wall and but anything didn't become possible for me. So I stopped believing it. Anything is possible. Yeah, whatever. I tried that. It didn't work. But if you actually do the work in earnest, which is what you've been doing, you connect with the true self. You getting the feeling now that the true feeling anything is possible? Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Like it really is. It just takes something. That's why I don't want to name any specific things, but sometimes I feel a bit critical, that I look at that and people go, oh, I've seen this or I've read that or I've seen this. And I'm like, it's great conceptually, but unless you put it into your life, you really do get for your life that anything is possible, then it actually just becomes something that works against us, not for us, because we look at anything as possible. Yeah, but I'm not doing it. So what's wrong with me? And okay, or anything is possible for them. Not for me.
Yeah.
But it is. It's actually, it is. But it takes something. That's what this work is. I'm just about being honest, right? Millions of people might now be going, oh, no, it's too hard or whatever. That's fine. That's not who I'm here for. It's never has been. I'm here for the person that goes, you know what? I get a taste of, I want to be my true self. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to do that. But I'd love to hear from you now because this year has been an incredible journey. What would you say? Is it worth it? Are you glad you're doing it? Or would you think, man, it would have been easier to stay in the previous pathways?
Oh, 100% worth it. Like it's life-changing, isn't it? And I can see how it can be limitless in directions that you never thought it's kind of like you take your blinkers off, You take your blinkers off, you can see a whole different world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, wow. Well, I knew this was going to be special today. I never knew what's going to come up, and I love that this is just, I didn't know you were going to ask me questions, and I should have known.
I like to interview.
Look, I really appreciate it because we're wanting to say something on this podcast, and you've As I say, I knew it was going to be special, but it's been very much so. But feels like a time to probably bring it to a close. But is there anything? I feel like we might need to do this again a few times. I feel in some ways we're just scratching the surface, and in some ways, but. Again, one of the questions I love to ask, and where you're at right now, I just love to hear if there is something that you want to add. If I'm a watcher of this podcast, maybe I haven't engaged in, this kind of work, but I'm hearing something. I want to live my life without limits. What's something that you would share from experience, from the work, or from whatever? What would you share with somebody that's out there going, I want to do that?
The word that's come into me is an awakening. I think a lot of people are going through their life almost like zombies. And I think that what I've learned and got through mindset shifts and different processes and different ways to think about it is it's awoken me. And, I'm not by any stretch there, but I've had enough glimpses of what it can be like, and I reckon it's pretty amazing. And you get one life, and to try and make it the best life, I think, is probably the most important thing that we can put our time and energy into. So to me, it's like changed my life talking to you. So it's been amazing. It's changed my life in many ways, physically, spiritual, all that sort of stuff. But I just look at it differently now, and I haven't. I prioritize different things, and I get different rewards back. And just this session, just talking to you now, I've actually just learned a lot from just talking to it. It was like having a session. It was amazing. And I think people can think about the theory behind it, and it's really easy because I spend a lot of time looking at other podcasts and listening to all these things, and it's easy to think about it, but you've got to live it. And I'm probably guilty of talking about stuff previously, but not really living it authentically. And I think that's probably the biggest change that I've had in the last few months or last year is living a lot more of it authentically rather than just the theory behind it.
Yeah.
But I think it's an awakening that is too special to be missed, and that's probably the biggest thing I've got from it.
Well, how important is that?
Yeah.
Because how many of us are doing that? How many of us are just saying the words, living or talking about the context, but not actually living it, and it does take something.
I went to Japan a few months ago, and I remember being in Tokyo in the train stations, and they've got these. First time I've been to Japan, and it's an amazing place, and you'll know the film The Matrix.
Yeah.
And Japan was like that. It was the most amazing place, and I can't wait to go back. But in the train stations, they had all these Japanese workers all in their white shirts and their blue pants, and they all look the same, and they've all got black hair, and they were just going up these escalators like this. And I thought, they just clock in and clock out, and there was something like, 200,000 people going through this train station every day, and it was just crazy. And there was just people everywhere, and it just felt like I was in the Matrix. And 90... And it's the first time I've ever felt it. I could see that 90% of the people, or whatever, or more of it, were just living life in the Matrix and just clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
And they weren't awake, and that was pretty special too. It's funny how like the universe puts these things in front of you just to sort of show you that, and that's what I got out of that. Like I realised that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to clock in and clock out and go up the same escalator every day and wear the same clothes every day. And of course you don't know what's going on in the background, but I think my vision was so many people are stuck in that sort of a matrix.
Yeah, wow. Because, you're bringing up too that when, we talked about earlier, you get shown when you're not on the pathway, but you also get shown when you are. I know when you went to Japan, that was a big thing itself that you went because you wouldn't have taken the time off. We had a chat, and it's like, no, we're going. You took your partner, and you were going over there, and you're on the path now, and so you get those insights too. You're like, it doesn't just work one way.
Yeah,
it's like once you get on the path of authenticity, you get to keep waking up, and you get to see you're a creator. You're not on a. What a beautiful analogy. You don't really have to be on an endless escalator. You're the creator of this thing. Yeah. And if you get off the escalator and actually wake up, then you can create whatever life you want. Whoa,
awakening.
I feel like my chair's kind of smoking at the moment after this one. I'm really buzzing. Look, I knew, again, this was going to be, I knew with what you'd done this year, this was going to be quite a special conversation, but it's really kind of blown away anything I could have even expected. Like, I talk about every episode that this is all about the gold nuggets that can come out, and man, the ones that have happened today, Cameron. So I just want to say thank you. Thanks for being here firstly, but thanks for who you are, and for not giving up, and for saying yes when you really got that opportunity, and also thank you for your courage to come here and share as honestly as you have. This podcast is all about helping people, and I've got quite a lot of feedback now that it is. I'm seeing people that go, I'm listening and I'm getting some really great stuff, and it's helping change lives. So this one really is going to do that for people. And so, just on behalf of all of us, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. And I'd like to thank you, because I can also see several friends of mine that I've referred on to you to talk to you, how you've changed their life. And a couple of them that I'm thinking of were in really dire situations, really dire life-threatening situations, when I put them onto you and you've turned them around. And I can actually, through knowing them from both sides of it, from the before and after, I can see how you've changed their life. And, maybe one of them wouldn't have been here today if they didn't get to talk to you. So that's how special it is.
Thank you for acknowledging. And it's teamwork, isn't it? Like,
well, I was just going to say that before, like it's, we both teach each other, I think. And I think when you're having your sessions with people, it's not just about you saying all these things and them listening. It's about, like they're flushing stuff out of you and you're flushing stuff out of them, and you're coming up with almost like a combined effort. You know?
I do talk about having the greatest job in the world, because I get to learn from every single time I speak. And, absolutely, you talked about what you've learned here today. Yeah. It's blowing me away. And I get to learn from every time I have have another talk with some, a session or whatever you want to call it. It's true. Well, that's what it is. If it's limitless, then there's no limit to how far we can grow, how much we can grow, and what a wonderful thing to open up to that.
And I believe you will.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Cameron. That's all I can say is thank you. That's a big one.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks everybody for watching this episode of Mind Shift. Hope you got as much, at least, out of it as I got over here. And thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Mind Shift.